Go ahead and start recording. Welcome. My name is Emily Shields. I'm the Executive Director of Iowa Campus Compact, and I'm excited to be here today just to talk a little bit about the potential for community engagement and talent development in the particular lens of a program that we have created called Principal Community Scholars, which is an opportunity for folks in the Midwest, and just some of what we've learned from that, and hopefully capturing some ideas for from the folks who are on today. I know that several will also be watching the recording, so we look forward to hearing from you following that about your ideas surrounding this topic. So just wanted to start with a little bit about kind of who we are, in case there's folks who are not familiar. Iowa Campus Compact is a higher education coalition based in Iowa. We are also a part of a national organization, Campus Compact, which has an office in Boston and 30 states. We are focused on strengthening the capacity of colleges and universities to prepare all students for engaged citizenship, and really focus on the civic mission of higher education. We help our member campuses to fulfill that through things like community engagement, civic learning, service, and a variety of things that really connect the campus to the community, whether that's students, faculty through community-based research, or how the institution as a whole partners in different ways. Here in Iowa, we have 21 members, including all three of the Regents institutions, many private colleges, one community college right now. So if you're on or you're listening and you don't see your institution on this screen, we would love to talk to you and consider possibilities, and certainly have ways we can work with folks, even if they're not members, depending on the program. One of the best ways I think I can describe what we're about is through the civic action statement that you see here. All of our member presidents signed on to this about a year and a half ago, and it really reaffirms some of what we're committed to. This was something that was done in recognition of the 30th anniversary of Campus Compact, and recommitted us to things like mutually respectful partnerships, preparing students for lives of engaged citizenship, responsibilities in terms of our place-based commitments, really using the capacity of institutions around challenging prevailing inequalities, and really making the public purpose of higher education central to everything that we're doing across the campus. So this is something, as I said, our member presidents signed on to. Many have since created civic action plans related to these commitments. Those are available on the compact.org website, and many are in the process of creating those plans right now. So more will be posted soon, and that's something else we can discuss with you in terms of what might be of interest to your campus. So why do we think this work is important, and what makes it particularly urgent right now? As you'll no doubt be aware, we have something of a civic skills gap and potentially a civic action gap in our country, with relatively low voter participation, limited contact with elected officials, limited understanding of how democracy works. And some of that ties back to higher education in terms of one survey showing that only a third of students think that they are getting increased civic capacities from their education. On the other hand, much of what we're doing is preparing students for their professional careers, which is something we agree with and wouldn't dispute, despite the focus on the civic mission. And this is an area where we also have some potential issues with employers not seeing students having some of the skills that they're really looking for when you're talking about things, core skills, soft skills, 21st century skills, whatever you want to call them. They're these kind of critical things that we seem to be missing in the education of many students, and employers are noticing that. Here at Iowa Campus Compact, one of the things that we try to point out is that we don't actually have to pit these two things against each other. It's not about professional skills versus civic skills and those being different things, because if you look at what is really at the heart of both things, you have a set of skills that really tie together. So thinking about critical thinking, problem solving, communication, cultural competence, empathy, passion, the ability to work across difference, the ability to apply theory and practice, all of those things are things that make for strong professional skills and are also things that make for someone who can really support their community and be able to participate strongly in our democracy. So we're looking for ways to really bring those two things together and think about how we're preparing the whole student for their lives, inclusive of their careers and their community and civic involvement. One of the best ways that we think that can be done is through community engagement experiences. There is now a wealth of research that community engagement, which can include a variety of things, which I'll talk about in a minute, build skills around critical thinking, build skills around communication and really being able to work with other people, build skills about working even across difference and cultural and racial understanding, and ultimately can help students apply what they're learning in the classroom to real-world problems and be able to demonstrate their knowledge on a variety of issues and topics. So if you're not familiar with community engagement, because I know when I use that language, that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And we think about it a couple of different ways too. So by the Carnegie definition on the right, community engagement is really about the mutually beneficial exchange of knowledge and resources in the context of partnership and reciprocity. So again, all the different things I talked about earlier with how higher ed institutions can engage with communities. On the left, you'll see a graphic that's more of a broader understanding of community engagement in higher ed and beyond. It's really a way of thinking about how everyone in a community is engaged in making decisions about that community in a way that creates equity. So thinking about this in a couple of different ways, it's really about how are we engaging different people in their communities and democracy? How are we building their skills to be able to do that? How are we using the resources and knowledge we have in higher education to really be able to impact community and community organizations? So on campus, you might be familiar with some of the different ways that can play out. Under that umbrella, we see several things, including service learning courses, where some sort of community engaged experience is really embedded with the learning outcomes. Other types of community service projects and programs, days on campus, things through clubs and organizations, but also community engaged research that may occur with or without student involvement, community dialogue, nonprofit internships. Again, lots of different possibilities kind of under that umbrella, but all going back to that context of reciprocity and really focusing on what is the student learning or the knowledge creation that's happening and what is the community impact that's happening. So in order to help achieve these ends and help more students get these kinds of opportunities and see themselves in this, we worked with Principal Financial Group to create the Principal Community Scholars Program. It's in its second year now, and we've recruited students from across the Midwest in business and related majors, and I'll talk in a minute about kind of some of the reasons for that. In community engaged projects, these are projects designed by the students where they're working sometimes with others, sometimes on their own in partnership with an organization, sometimes on their own on campus. I'll give some examples in a minute. We provide those students with support opportunities through retreats, through one-on-one support from our staff. They also have an on-campus advisor identified who more often than not helps them to sort of integrate their activities with other things happening on campus. And they have opportunities to connect with principal as well. And they receive a $1,000 scholarship at the end of the spring semester after they complete their project. On our end, we're really, again, trying to give students opportunities, and in particular, business students and others who might not see community engagement as directly linked to their career preparation and helping them to see that differently. On the principal end, they're really thinking about their talent pipeline. They're thinking about how do they find students with the skills, abilities, and knowledge to fit in a principal and help them see themselves there. So finding students who have an interest in community issues and so might not see principal as the avenue for really fulfilling their lives and their careers. And also they want to find students who have had real experiences and be able to demonstrate that through their project, and then find students who really have the talent that they're looking for at principal. So again, some of the goals for us: connecting career and community, so helping students to see the value of community experiences to their career preparation, and ongoing, seeing the value that community engagement will have to them throughout their career, meeting community needs through the students' projects, and I'll give some examples about that. Building the students' career skills and really helping them to do a better job of drawing those connections. And then also for principal, as I mentioned, having the ability to meet, get to know, and ultimately hopefully recruit a group of civic-minded professionals. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to have this call today and record this information to help share it more broadly across the Midwest, so that faculty who may have the ear of students who are interested in community engagement or interested in careers at principal to find out about this opportunity, to really be able to engage different students in this in the future. So just to give some examples of the kinds of projects students have done, because that can sometimes seem a little bit unclear. And again, these can be projects students are already doing for different student organizations, classes, capstone projects, a variety of things. It doesn't have to be something new or different. We add value, again, by giving the student an additional financial incentive, involving a corporate partner, and providing some professional development and project support to those students. So the picture is one of our most interesting examples where a group of students at Mount Mercy University in Cedar Rapids worked to take all the sandbags that had been used from the floods there a few years ago and were then just going to be discarded. They worked with a local group of refugee women to turn those sandbags into handbags that they branded and sold, and then donated all of those profits back to that group of refugee women. So it was an opportunity for students to really create something, to have experience with entrepreneurship, to experience all elements of that, working with materials, working with design, partnering with an organization and these women, having to work on sales and lots of different things like that. So they got a great experience. We're also able to raise thousands of dollars through this project. Some of the others, and I'll show a video in a second that'll give some more examples, are around financial literacy, helping to build a community garden, building sustainability awareness on campus, helping students to get to know the neighborhood around them in a particular area where that hasn't occurred in the past, building dialogues between Muslim students and others on campus, and working on food insecurity, both on campus and off. There have been a couple of projects in that area. So at the end of the semester, students are asked to create a video talking about their project and what they learned from that. And last year we created a little compilation of that I will attempt to play now to give you a little bit of better sense from the student's perspective.
Over the course of one semester, the Principal Community Scholars Program allowed me to share my passions through a community engagement project. Principal's generous funding assisted me in gaining the support and guidance necessary to create real curriculum for community partners that works to fulfill Sights on STEM's mission statement. Sights on STEM envisions a future where students have a strong STEM foundation as they consider choosing a career path that matches their passion and contributes to the world. My project included preparing a garden for the Eastwood community, which provides apartments for low-income families around the Ames and Des Moines neighborhoods. The successes of this project was really seeing how a garden can bring people together. Food is a very unifying force between everyone. We had various members of the community coming out to help, and it was really great to see people coming together. Community service it's not about me, it's about the people that I serve and realizing what their needs are. It's not about what I want to give them, it's really about what they need. And this project really helped show me that I need to put the people that I'm serving first.
Throughout the process of planning my civic engagement project, I learned more about the impact I can have on the community. and the importance of working with multiple groups within a community to make an impact. It only takes one person to start a meaningful program and partnership. This experience taught me how important it is for communities of entrepreneurs to work together, and that they can be more successful when they are able to share ideas with each other. Being part of the Principal Community Scholars Program was a great way for me to expand my community service experience. I couldn't have done it without everyone's support. Thank you.
So as you can see, we really had some talented students do really interesting projects across a variety of different community issues and needs, and they were able to gain some different skills from that. We really helped them to reflect on that. A couple of things we've learned from the program, and part of what we're just trying to engage with more and get feedback on, we've learned that students need and appreciate help reflecting on and being able to articulate those skills. So one of the kind of gaps we're seeing is that more and more students are having community engaged experiences in college. Employers say that's something that they value, and yet the two are not really connecting in the hiring process. Students are not reflecting their community engaged experiences very well. Often it's one line at the bottom of the resume about where they volunteered, and not really a lot of information about the depth of that experience, the skills built through that experience, that kind of thing. So that's something we've worked on the scholars with quite a bit and want to work on with other students as well. The other side of it that we've spent some time on is in working with Principal, we've learned more about the employer side and kind of how they evaluate these experiences. And one of the things that they've talked about a lot is that they are really looking for these community engaged students, but also finding that students aren't highlighting that on their resume, and they're struggling to find who those students are and really learn about that. So one, this program helps to build that gap, bridge that gap, at least for one institution and a certain group of students. But I think there's more that we can do to help also educate employers about what to look for, what questions to ask, how they can really find and seek these civic-minded professionals in their hiring process. And that's something that we have worked on a little bit. I've spoken to several business groups. We're developing different tools around that, and really trying to figure out how do we connect better to businesses and help them to see that, again, this goes beyond the internship. The internship is one experience where students can get that hands-on application, but for many, there are experiences throughout their college life, and many that build them up for the internship experience, that are all contributing to that skill development and making them potentially valuable employees. So we're looking at different and better ways to make those connections for people. So what can colleges and universities do? And this is something where, again, we'll be looking for some feedback as well. But first and foremost, nominate students. We will be opening up the nomination process for the 2018-2019 Principal Community Scholars Program very soon. Some of the requirements for that: we prefer that students are sophomores and juniors so that they are able to maximize this experience and their potential to possibly intern at Principal later on. That's something where they'll be kind of at the forefront of getting those opportunities. So that's something we're looking for. We have a list of business or related majors. It is not limited to that, but we are trying to target those students, again, because they're the students most likely to be interested in a career at Principal. But we have had students from other fields, and Principal is open to that, has many employees who have other majors, so that's something that's open as well. Again, the project does not have to be a new project, but it does have to be one where the students are taking on significant leadership responsibility and will have the ability to articulate that project in the nomination process. And then students do need to be around for the year that they're on in the program. So again, not studying abroad that year, that kind of thing, so that they can participate. We have in the past, in the fall, done a virtual retreat where students can join together for a couple of hours on this platform, learn a little bit more about the program and each other's projects, and get some support. We've then offered one-on-one support for those students. And then this year we've added a new element where in April they're all invited to come to Principal for a day-long retreat there. So they can learn more about the company, but also do more of that reflection on what they're learning through community engagement and how they can apply it to their careers. They'll have the opportunity to do some of that reflection with principal staff, really learn from them how they'll be evaluated in the hiring process and get some practice doing some mock interviewing and that kind of thing. One thing we're trying to promote with that is you don't have to nominate students who are already community engaged. Our hope would be that this might be a chance to bring in a student who has an interest in working at principal someday but isn't sure how to set themselves apart, and really use the community engagement experience to give them something new and a new way of building skills and setting themselves apart. So we've kind of seen both students who are very community engaged, because I think that's who faculty and staff think to nominate, and students who just more have an interest in this type of company and want to see themselves in it. So that's something we're looking for, and I can share more information with you if you're interested in that. I would say also create more and perhaps more importantly, better community engaged opportunities. So this is something where we are seeing a lot of growth in business programs in particular, because the importance of being able to apply things in the community is recognized. And nonprofit organizations can act really effectively as clients for projects where students really get the opportunity to develop that business relationship and dive into a real project, because nonprofits will be perhaps more likely to give students ownership of something big that they need for their organization, whether that's marketing or communications or something around strategic planning. I've seen a lot of great examples, and I'm happy to share any of those. Beyond that, one of the most important things faculty can do, of course, in community engagement is really to facilitate strong reflection on learning and skill development. So service learning or community engaged learning only really works with that learning component actively facilitated. Students really need help knowing what they're learning from experience and being able to connect that to course material. They also need help thinking about skill development, and that's one of the things that isn't always present in strong reflection. So you'll be tying it back to learning outcomes, but are you also tying it to those core skills so that they're seeing where a certain project taught them to work across difference or communicate with a client or things like that, so that they'll better be able to recognize those learnings and reflect those learnings in future experiences and in the hiring process. And then what I would also encourage is conversations with recruiters and business partners, where you have the opportunity to talk to companies about what they're looking for. I think that's where we're trying to learn the most. We know that companies value volunteer experience. We know that that's something they try to promote and look for in their employees. And so how do we better facilitate that in terms of the opportunities we're giving students, the kinds of opportunities, and how they as business partners might want to support those opportunities, because again, that's something principal has been excited about. We also have a new partnership with Tyson, where they are supporting summer community internships. So again, recognizing the value of having students work in the community, but actually having those students intern for nonprofits. And not necessarily Tyson. So they're providing the funding for that, because the gap is often that nonprofits don't have the resources to pay interns, and many students can't afford to work for free. So creating more of those community engaged experiences in a way that builds student learning and also impacts communities and community organizations. So we're exploring more of these partnerships and thinking about how to do that. So along those lines, businesses, if you're talking to them or if you're from a business, can be thinking about how they can support the creation of more and better community engaged opportunities, whether that's financially or that's thinking about how your employee volunteer engagement program might align with what a local higher ed partner is doing, and there could be synergies there as well, so that employees and students are volunteering alongside each other and a mentoring relationship can develop a little more naturally perhaps. Conversely, having conversations with higher ed partners about what it is they're trying to do around community engagement and what you should be looking for. Thinking of new ways of reviewing applications. I know the university relations folks that I work with at Principal have talked about reading resumes from the bottom up, so that they're looking at those extra volunteer experiences first rather than last, so that they can be valued in that way, conducting interviews differently, asking different questions, and of course strengthening your own employee engagement opportunities to include some of these best practices around encouraging employees to engage in skill-based volunteering where they're building their workplace skills more directly, encouraging them to engage in reflection so that they're understanding the learning and development that's taking place through those community engaged opportunities. And I know that's something that some employers are thinking about and that we're happy to help with as well. So for those of you who are on live, I'm going to stop recording, but open it up to any questions, comments, ideas about this. For those of you watching the recording, you can find out more about us at iacampuscompact.org, and we are open to your ideas. You can learn more about the Principal Community Scholars on our website. You can learn more about our other partnerships and opportunities for students, staff, and faculty, and for institutions, and you can share with us your ideas. So thank you very much. Okay.